Yes, indeedy. Welcome everybody to the back to the Clear the Ice program, Flyers postgame show here on the It's Rap Sports Network for our 2024-2025 Flyers season end review show. Only 4 months after the season ended, but you know what? Hey, like we were talking, Mike, we got to get the box checked. So here we are. And listen, you got to look at the positives. You know, hockey's right around the corner. I've already started talking hockey on my show, so it's kind of an appetizer, I guess, to whet your appetite. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Matty. Listen, I'm really excited to see what this Flyers team can be. With the hiring of Tocchet, the acquisition of Trevor Zegras. I'm waiting to see how this is really going to play out come this upcoming season. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and before we look forward, we have to look back. That's what we're going to do here for the next, hour or so. We're going to take a look back at some of the pivotal moments that shaped the Flyers season. That was, yes, the good, the bad, the ugly, and maybe the uncertain as well, as year 2 of the rebuild was in full swing here in South Philadelphia. The Flyers, for those of you that forgot, I will remind you, I don't know if you want to be reminded, but the Flyers finished the season 33, 39, and 10 for 76 points, dead last in the Metropolitan Division, missing the playoffs for a franchise-tying 5th season in a row. No playoffs for the Flyers. Now, for those of you keeping score at home, if you're having problems finding out when the last time the Flyers have missed the playoffs for 6 consecutive seasons, it's not your computer. That's because they've never missed the playoffs for 6 consecutive seasons in franchise history. And it's a dubious honor that I don't know. Hopefully, the Flyers don't set here in 25-26, but we're going to look forward to that later. Let's look back. But, Mike, coming off of what 23-24 was, which a lot of people had a lot of expectation. This team was number 6 in the Eastern Conference coming down the stretch post All-Star break. And then it all kind of came apart, and they didn't make the playoffs that year. And then heading into last season, Mike, was your expectations about making the playoffs? I mean, where were you sitting with this team heading into this past season?
Like every other hockey fan, you wanted to see the Flyers kind of take that next step going in because they were so close the year before. They kind of fizzled out. They lost a lot of games, Matty, that they shouldn't have lost. At the end of the year, I mean, against teams that they shouldn't have lost to, like Montreal, Chicago, just to name a few. Buffalo, I think, got them too at the end of that year. So, they really kind of self-inflicted wounds, I guess you could say, for that team. You had to have optimism going in. Plus, them getting Matej Michkov to come over early, and that's all we heard about. This kid was right up there with Connor Bedard, and, he was the next coming. And, for the most part, he did okay. I don't think it was, I don't know. I guess I didn't like the way Tortorella used him last year. I felt like he was kind of hard on the Rook for a certain amount of times. But, I mean, he did finish up with 63 points, which was second on the team, only to Travis Konecny, who had 76 points. So, I don't know. What do you feel? How are you feeling about this?
Well, as far as my expectation level heading into the season, I was kind of expecting a bigger step. Maybe not playoffs, but I was expecting a bigger step. But some of the restraints that were holding the Flyers back at the end of last season were still present heading into the beginning of this past season. The salary cap situation was still not worked out. They didn't have a goaltender. They were going to go with Sam Ersson. No, Ryan, it is not a brand new show. This is our Flyers postgame show. This actually will be season 3 of the postgame show this year. So that tells you how much you've been paying attention, Ryan. Come on,
yeah, man.
Wake up.
Ryan, come on. Where you been? We've been doing this now for 3 years. 1 year over on EOP and two over here.
Jesus.
Or however
2 years EOP, 1 year here. So
that's right.
That's right. It's season 4 coming up. I don't even know. I don't even know.
The first, Matty, I got to give you all the credit in the world. Between the Fightins final and the Clear the Ice, the first season, man, I don't know how you got sleep or how you're even alive compared to, because Matty covered it all, man, the first season, man. He covered it all.
And, of course, I was rewarded with the Fightins final with the World Series, but so far still waiting for the fruit to ripen on this show, but hopefully that'll happen this year. But getting back to my thing, I was expecting more of a, again, I'm not going to sit here and say I was expecting the playoffs. I was not. I was expecting another step in another building block in the foundation. Now, I don't know if that actually occurred, but we're going to get into that here. But as you mentioned, Matt V. Michkov, that was one of the good news stories from last season. And I'll put that little pretty graphic back up. 80 games played, 26 goals, 37 points, 37 assists, 63 points, and it got off a minus 18. But the next, Connor Bedard, Sid Crosby, Connor McDavid, all rolled up into one. I don't know if he is that, but he is definitely something special that the Flyers can definitely build this team around and bring him in, and be part of what could possibly be the future of this team. But it's all going to come down to finding the right pieces to put around him. And historically, this team has been terrible at doing that. So more to follow, but obviously getting him a year early was great. He definitely infused the offense. It's not really that good of an offense to begin with, but he was part of that infusion, Mike. But Michkov, moving forward, what is your expectations of him? Or first of all, what was your overall opinion about his season? And then what are your expectations of him going forward?
I thought he kind of, even though he finished with 63 points, from a goal scoring standpoint, I thought he was a little underwhelming in the goal scoring department. I do like his setups. I feel like he can distribute the puck very well. Again, I just feel like, to me, I don't feel like Tortorella used him right. And he kind of fell in Tortorella's doghouse there for a little bit too. So it was kind of like, let the kid play. You don't get a kid like that who's a talent and then just it was really a weird situation with him with Tortorella. Early on, he would bench the kid, and you'd be like, you don't have no offense as it is. And you're going to take one of the more highlighted options in your offense out of the game. I wasn't understanding what he was trying to do to him. And, going forward, I think now with the addition of Zegras to go on that front line, along with Konechny and him, I think that's going to be a really good line. I think it's going to be one of the better ones in the NHL, to be honest with you. But it all depends if Zegras can stay healthy. That's been his main issue.
Yeah, and you mentioned the other side of that offensive superpower, and that was not him, sorry, not Tyson, but Travis Konechny had himself a really good, the most prolific offensive season of any Flyer this past season. 82 games played, 24 goals, 52 assists, 76 points, and a god awful minus 17. I don't know where. I mean, I know why they're so low, but listen, Mike. Travis Konechny is one of those players that continuously hangs around here. And yeah, he's gotten a big contract extension. I don't necessarily was on board with that. I don't know if the timeline is going to work out for him to actually be here when this team is good, and if he's actually going to be part of any kind of legitimate Stanley Cup championship team. I always expect Travis Konechny to be a hot trade deadline name. I don't know if he is, and I don't know if Danny B actually fields any calls about him, but right now, with the way the offense is set up, this team cannot afford to go on without Travis Konechny.
No, they can't. Because he's one of the guys in that top six that puts the puck in the net. I mean, if you're really looking at it, I mean, you have him, Michkov, and now you're going to add Zegras to that line again, if healthy. I feel that's definitely an upgrade from Ryan Poehling, even though I like Poehling's game. But if you're looking back now, that you got the second three with Tippett, and Forrester, so I mean, the Flyers are slowly, surely building up power. I guess power. They have a lot of forwards. I would like to see them get a couple centermen, because to me, I know you've been kind of yelling about that all year. To me, they got to start getting more and more centermen. Now, they did address that in the draft this year. And got a couple of them, but they're not going to be here for a couple of years anyway. You know what I mean? They're their number one pick is going. Their first number one pick's going to Michigan State, so it's going to be a while before we see him. So I'm hoping that they can do something. I thought they kind of missed the boat. With Tarasenko, I think that would have been he was available last year, I think he would have helped out Mitchkov immensely, and he's still good enough to put the puck in the net. I thought they kind of missed the boat with bringing him in, but I guess really they didn't have the money to go and get him.
Maybe not the money, or maybe they just, again, timeline didn't work out for them in terms of what they're building here. But you're right. When you're trying to stretch for any kind of offense, why not go for a player that you could probably bring in here relatively cheap? You could have gotten him on a one-year deal and shipped him out in April or February when the trade deadline got here. I kind of agree with that. But all right, Mike. So the last good thing, let's talk about the last good thing from the Flyers. Wow, 3 points. You mentioned Tortorella. We're going to spend a big chunk of talking about John Tortorella and that at the middle part when we get to the ugly segment of this show. But one of the positive things in the John Tortorella reign was, at least it seems like, we might have found an actual third line on this hockey team. Now, one of the things that this team has been very prevalent doing over the course of the last 2 seasons is mixing and matching lines continuously. I know there's a lot of in-game adjustments with that, but the Flyers start games with different line combinations just about every game. But we might have found something in the Tyson Forster, Noah Cates, and Bobby Brink line. This was typically the third line. Now, whether or not they can remain together this season, I don't know, because we still, as you already kind of alluded to, we still don't have enough center depth on this team currently. I don't know if they can keep that line together, but I think moving forward, this is something that we definitely can be very positive about. All these players, with the exception of Bobby Brink. Bobby Brink was probably the lone player out of that trio that did not really take offensive strides forward this past season. But let's take a look at some of their numbers real quick. This is Noah Cates, 18 goals, 21 assists for 37 points in 78 games played. Tyson Forster, just had his stuff up. Tyson Forster, a really big season for him offensively, 81 games, 25 goals, 18 assists, and 43 points. And then Bobby Brink, as I mentioned, perhaps the player that didn't necessarily take the big step forward, only 12 goals and 29 assists. But overall, the third line, did we find one?
Yeah, I think we have. And, that allows really kind of the other guys, the Couturiers and, the Couturier Owen Tippett line for line 2, really, if they could find something there now to help them out there, I think it would be, you would have 3 decent lines, not like over the top great, but 3 decent lines. And for me, I think the biggest thing, Maddie, that we're talking about good is that this line basically kind of got thrown together by necessity, really, when we had all the injuries, and then all of a sudden they started producing, and they were actually helping out the Mitchkov and Konechny line. So, I mean, for me, them being able to pair those 3 together again and have them run it back, I think they're only going to get better. They're young, and Brink, I think, is going to have a better year than he did last year. The guy we got to be really kind of weary of right now is Forster. With him with that injury, hopefully he should be ready to go by the time training camp starts, or at least the beginning of the season. But I think that line's going to be I think they're going to do very well for the Flyers this year.
So if you're just tuning in, you're watching the Clear the Ice, the Flyers postgame show here on the Instant Rap Sports Network. Entering season 4, Ryan Swope of post-game entertainment of Flyers variety on Clear the Ice program. This is our 2024-2025 Flyers season review show. Yes, I realize it's the end of August. It's 98 degrees outside, and the Flyers season's been over since April. But what do you want from me, man? I'm a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest these days. There's a lot going on. We finally got around to doing it. And as I mentioned, I think it's appropriate, seeing how the season's about to start. But you know what other season's about to start, Mike Laurel? That's right, the football season. Eagles, Cowboys. Birds will hang the banner. Get it all started on a title defense on September the 4th, Thursday night at 8:30. And make sure after every Eagle game, you're right back here with the Birds Flyby. Ryan Swope, another new show. This ain't a new show either. We had it last year, Ryan Swope. But we'll be back for season 2 of the Birds Flyby. So make sure you're tuning in. But here's a new show for y'all to sink your teeth in, the Happy Valley Huddle. We're going to dip our toes into the Penn State Nittany Lion football season. Number 2, Penn State will battle number 4. No, I'm just kidding. Will battle Nevada.
Number 104.
Will battle Nevada on Saturday, August 30th. Mike Lara will be your guide through the Penn State football in 2025. Mike, you got Nevada, Florida International, and Villanova.
I'll tell you,
3 opponents in the Penn State schedule.
Listen, Penn State did, they're not trying to win any brownie points, man, from anybody in the writers, but those 3 schedules, their out-of-conference ones are pretty brutal. But, hey, it is what it is. I mean, they have to go to Columbus this year to play. They get Oregon at home for the whiteout. I think that's going to be an amazing sight. Guys, if you've never seen the whiteout, September 27th, it's on NBC, believe it or not. It's a primetime game, so it starts at 7:30, which, by the way, Maddie, a few of these games, I went on their schedule to actually take a look to see when these scheduled games are coming out. Like, only 4 of them got times out of the 11. They all say to be announced. So I guess we got to wait and see.
It's very flexible.
Yeah, pretty much when the final whistle goes in the Penn State game, I will be on here doing the post game. Oh, and I know this is the Flyers pregame show, but your boy Howie's at it again. He traded like a 6th-round draft pick to the Jaguars, bringing back Fred Johnson.
For Travis Hunter?
No, he brought back Fred Johnson, offensive lineman. Brought him back.
All right, there you go. Howie Roseman adds an offensive lineman and a quarterback today, and has said goodbye to 3 draft picks now over the last 4 hours? Interesting. All right, more on that later on as we move through the week. Maybe later tonight at 10 o'clock when I come back with the final word. That's right, final word. Matty B is returning tonight at his regular scheduled start of my broadcast week. So make sure you're tuned in as the Matty B trifecta continues here on the It's Rap Sports Network on your Sunday. You had me on Fight Final, you had me here, and you had me in about 3 hours or 2 hours from now. So, all right, Mike, back to the Flyers. We kind of went through some of the good things, and now I want to transition to some of the bad things.
The ugly.
And there's a few of them. Let's get right onto it. The Flyers, and I want to do this diplomatically because the season was sort of Tortorella, as we all know, got fired around game 73, and Brad Shaw took over for the final 9 games. So we're going to break this stuff down because I think it's pertinent to this discussion here today. I'm going to break it down, Tortorella and Shaw. So for the first 73 games, the Flyers' power play was 26 for 190 for about 13.6% effective. Now, everyone's going to hang out, what's his name for that, the power play coach, and he's gone, by the way, so he's moving on. But this is not indicative of the 24-25 season. The Flyers, since the 2021-22 season, have gone 119 for 894 on the power play, which is 13.3% effective. This team has been dreadful on the power play for a lot of years. Mike, do you look at this thing, the power play ineffectiveness, through coaching, talent, or a combination of both?
I'm going to say combination of both. Because if you can put the puck in the net in a 5-on-5, you can put the puck in the net 5-on-4 or 5-on-3 or 4-on-3. So, again, I think it's a little bit of both. The Flyers don't have snipers. They got a couple guys who can put the puck in the net, literally a couple. So, for them to go that, for them to do that, to me, you got to look at it both. And I know they wanted to hang, was it Rocky something? They wanted to hang him.
Rocky Thompson.
Yeah, Rocky. They wanted to hang him out to dry, but he's not out there trying to execute either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You had defensemen giving away, giving the puck away while we have these, while we're on the power play. You can't have that. It was just a bunch of things that went wrong with that power play. So you got to blame them both. The coaches ain't out there trying to score. They can only draw it up and practice it so many times. Eventually, after a while, your players have to execute. And the Flyers just weren't executing with the man advantage.
Now, actually, I'm about to enlighten you here. 23-24, the Flyers were 12.2 effective on the power play. So, statistically, they improved. It did. I mean, we're not talking about leaps and bounds, but they went from 12.2 to 13.6. They were 31 for 254 in that season on the power play, but I get your point. And you mentioned the giveaways. This was a number I kept track of all season long. In 23-24, the Flyers gave the puck away an astonishing 456 times through 82 games. That's 5.5 a game on average. Under Tortorella specifically, the Flyers gave the puck away 1,145 times for 15.6 times a game. And I double checked that number. I said, there's no way in hell it's that much of a dispersion. That's true. They only gave up the puck 400 and so many odd times in 23-24. They gave the puck away almost 1,200 times in 82 games. 15.6 times a game they gave the puck away, Mike. What do you attribute that to? Where do you attribute that spike in fundamental hockey?
Because the defensemen bringing the puck up were not fundamental. If you look at our guys that come out of the zone, other than Sanheim, who else? Sanheim and York. Other than Sanheim and York, who else do you trust bringing the puck up out of the zone? And even those guys, York made a lot of errant passes last year as well. Again, I think it's the system they were running, the offense they were trying to run. To me, again, they weren't cycling. They weren't, it was a dump and chase. This was like watching the Lindros teams of the mid-'90s. The only difference is, they had big guys that could go in and get it, and they would make that team, they would punish that team then when they went back to get the puck. They weren't punishing nobody. They were just dumping, and by the time, you turn around, they were just clearing the zone. The opposing defense was clearing the zone. Or they would try to do errant passes where they would be coming down one side and then try to go cross ice. And the defense would bait them. I don't know how many games I saw this year, Maddie, that when I was doing the post game, I'd be writing my notes down here. I got my book right here from. I have a little notebook right here. You can't see it because I got my background on. But one of those little, one subject notebooks, I write down everything that I see in the game. And I can literally go back and show you every Flyers game that I did this past season since joining It's a Wrap. Every Flyers game that I've done, you will see in there too many errant passes. Not enough tape-to-tape passes. They were always trying to chance it, always trying to get that lead pass to get into the zone. They were never just, doing the right play. And that falls a lot on the defenseman coming up here. Ristolainen was probably the worst. I mean, every time that dude touched the puck, he was turning it over. It was so frustrating to watch. I didn't want to see him out on a power play.
That's a great segue. We're going to segue off of the power play inability, and we're going to segue off of the giveaways, and we're going to talk about the defense because that does fit in the ugly category for 24-25. It's a combination of Jamie Drysdale, Cam York, Rasmus Ristolainen when he was in there. He was hurt most of the season. I don't know, Igor Zamula, and then Emil Andre. They cycled into so many. There's a lot of people they cycled through there. Just did not get the job done on all levels. They were poor offensively, and they were at times criminally bad defensively under Tortorella. And one of the players, as you already mentioned to, was actually extremely criminally bad. And Tortorella, I don't think liked this guy at all, and that was Cam York. Cam York was in and out of Tortorella's doghouse every 5 minutes, it seemed. And then at the end of the season, it was the infamous dust up between Cam York and Tortorella in the Toronto Maple Leaf locker room up there up the TD Guard or wherever, up Maple Leaf Garden in Toronto, that prompted Tortorella to make the infamous "I did not sign up to coach this type of hockey," which then ultimately led to his firing last season. So Cam York, I haven't given up on Cam York. I think Cam York is. I still envision Cam York of being a love child of Mark Howe and Timonen. I think that's their love child. I still think he has the ability to develop that way. But if you're looking at a player that, in my opinion, disappointed me the most, that I was really unhappy with his overall season, it was Cam York for me.
I'll tell you what, and I'll agree with you about Cam York, but to me, Cam reminds me a little bit of a Brian Leach. He reminds me a little bit of a Brian Leach with his game. He really does. That would be like my vet comparison to him. He reminds me a lot of Brian Leach. He really does. One guy, though, on this defense that you just got to really, really kind of tip your cap to, because I think he was probably their best defenseman all year, was Nick Seeler. Nick Seeler was the only defenseman with a plus rating.
as the seventh defender.
Seventh defender. Yeah, exactly. He had a plus 10. And the guy blocked how many shots this year?
Yeah.
He had to have over 100 block shots at least.
Yeah.
To me, I miss Sean Walker. I really do. I kind of wish they could have reacquired him to team him back up with Sealer, because I thought they were a great pair 2 years ago. I understand why they got rid of or why they traded Sean for what they got for him. So, I mean, I know they had to trade him, but I would have loved to see them try to go out and get him back this offseason just to pair him with Nick Sealer again, because I thought they were a great duo, and they played really well. But this year, I really want to see more improvement from York and Sanheim this year. Like, they got to be that number one defensive pairing. They have to, shut guys down. And I think they should worry a little less about offense and a little more about defense. And I think they'll be okay, because both of them guys were really quick to always want to jump up in the play. And that led into some bad mistakes going back the other way.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I've done multiple breakdowns. You can check them out on the YouTube channel. A lot of them featured Cam York's inability to play fundamental defense, just bad passes, bad positioning, bad angles, all that. I'm concerned about the Flyer defensive unit going into the season. They added some free agents there to kind of strengthen a little bit, but I don't know if there's enough. I think they're hoping that, as you mentioned, I think they're hoping for a healthy Ristolainen. I think they're hoping for an improvement on York. And Jamie Drysdale, for God's sakes, man, he needs to snap out of it. Maybe being reunited with his best friend Trevor Zegras does it for him. But I have my concerns defensively for this team. But the worst aspect of this Flyer team for me in 24-25, it reigns supreme. And I say this all the time, and I don't mean no disrespect towards the Pelly Lindbergh family or Pelly Lindbergh's memory or legacy. But I really think that just before his car hit those steps of that school on that November night back in '85, and he lost his life, I think he cursed the Flyers. I think he said something to the effect, "You put me in this position, I'm going to curse you," because we have not been able to figure out the goddamn goaltending situation in this team for going on 45 years, and it's really becoming somewhat of an annoyance for me. Every time we think we got one, they pulled the trigger on a trade too soon, and he goes off and wins 20 Vezina trophies and 55 Stanley Cups. We sign one long term, and he turns into our Bobby Bonilla. We draft one high, he ends up going to Canada to face sexual assault criminal charges. Every single time, it seems like something happens once we think we figured out the goaltender situation. Mike,
yeah,
Sam Ersson, given the opportunity after the Carter Hart incident last year, we all gave it a pass. Oh, it's the defense. Sean Walker got traded. It's the injuries. He'll be okay. Mikey wasn't okay last year as our starting goalie, and we still have a goaltending problem here.
Yeah, we will, and we're going to continue to have a goaltending problem. So either one of these guys that we drafted, Matty, moves up and shows that he can take over the reins, or they got to go out and do what they always do, which is overspend for one. I'm not sold on Ersson. Now, Kozlov, I believe he went back to the KHL, right? So he's not with the Flyers.
I don't care where he's at.
Yeah, I don't want him here. Fedotov came over with kind of a little bit of a stigma around him too, about he was real good. But to me, he looks so big,
he's Frankenstein out there, man.
Yes.
He can't move anything below his waist. He's like a statue.
Yeah. For me, I think the book's out on him already. Now, I'm interested to see about the guy they got from Calgary. I'm trying to remember his name here because they don't have him on the list. This was last year's roster. So there he is.
Ladar.
Yeah, Ladar. So again, he's got a 2.80. I'm interested to see, is he going to be the backup? Against I'm pretty sure they're going with Ersson again, but I think he's going to be our backup, which I kind of like that backup over the two that we had on the roster a year ago. Now, I know the young Finnish goaltender, and I believe there's another Russian goaltender down in the minor league systems. I think it's going to be at least 2 to 3 years before they even get up this way. So, again, you're looking at these guys, it's going to be a weakness until either one, the Flyers clear out and they can go out and get themselves a free agent goalie until these guys are ready to come up and take over. Until that, man, I don't see them. We're going to be stuck with, a guy like Arison and Fedotov and the guy from Calgary.
So the two goalies you're speaking of is the 2024 second-round draft pick, Carson Bjornsson out of Canada, and the 2024 third-round draft pick, Igor Zaradin, who currently is in the MHL. Bjornsson will be a Phantom. He finished up his fourth year with the Brandon Wheat Kings in the Western Hockey League last spring, came on and was part of the Phantoms playoff run through the spring. He will be the starting goalie probably for the Lehigh Valley Phantoms this year. Now that Cal Stevenson and his $5 million are no longer part of this team, he's all done. So
yeah, he went to Minnesota. Did you see how much they signed him for?
For $10 million? I mean,
no, they signed him for I think it was $350,000.
Yeah, well, it was a salary dump. We needed a player to complete the Fedorov, what's his face, the defenseman, Fedotov, not Fedotov, Provorov. God damn it, Provorov trade. We need that third team, and LA swooped in and said, "Take this guy, and we'll complete that trade." So it was a salary dump for the Kings. Boy, 2 years of $5 million a year to sit in Allentown. I'm in the wrong business, Mike. I'm actually in the wrong damn business.
Me too. I'd have suited up for $5 million a year.
Yep. So
I couldn't have done any worse, right?
No, you couldn't have. But so Bjornsson and Zaradin are the next contestants in the goalie is up for the Flyers. And yeah, as you said, the Flyers tipped their hand a few years back by investing high draft capital on goalies. So that's the route we're going to go. And yeah, I know that. I think the Urson Vladar thing, let's look at that real again, because there's a couple of things about Urson there's one major thing. Listen, I don't care how you sell it to me. 47 games played at the NHL level and an .833 save percentage. That's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Not to mention his 3.41 goals against. I can live with a 3.41 goals against, but .833 in a save percentage, I can't live with that. And I know they're married to each other because of the high goals. So that was absolutely garbage. And then Vladar comes in with a 2.80, less work by 17 games, but a save percentage kind of close to Urson's, which concerns me. But yeah, it's going to be a 1A, 1B. I don't know if there's going to be a legitimate starter. I think it's going to be a tandem. Whether or not they make it through the season that way is another thing, but we're going to start that way with Urson and Vladar. And Mike, I don't care who you might have playing for your team, unless you're playing on some super team that has Wayne Gretzky in his prime, has Sidney Crosby in his prime, Connor McDavid in his prime, those types of players all playing in their prime. You're never going to win a Stanley Cup, Mike, unless you have competent goaltending.
Oh, no, not at all. You got to have it. You got to have it. And I'm sorry, if you have not seen the beginning of this Flyers schedule for this year, holy cow, who did they piss off in the NHL front office?
Florida, Carolina, Florida. Open up on the road against the Stanley Cup champions. Then you go to Carolina. Then you come home and open up against the Stanley Cup champions.
Hold on. And that's not even finished. Then you got the Western Conference Jets coming in after them. And then you have the Wild and then the Kraken. I'm sorry. They looked at the Flyers and were like, screw you, buddy. Like, they didn't do the Flyers no favors, man.
No,
not at all.
Good. All right. So we kind of touched over the good with just some of the bad. Well, you know what's not bad? And that's It's a Wrap Sports Network and our coverage of the Philadelphia Phillies. And you can catch every Phillies postgame on the Fighting's Final after every game. This week, the Phillies are heading up to Citi Field for a pivotal, should-be playoff-like atmosphere against the New York Mets. The Phillies have an opportunity to really stick a nail in the Mets' coffin. If they sweep, that would pretty much, in my aspect, wrap up the East. They'd be 10 games up at that point. Or the Phillies have an opportunity to let the Mets rail back into this thing and lose 3 or lose 2 out of 3. So, but we'll have you covered through all the action. Mike Laro has you on Monday, Steve Fuentes on Tuesday, and I will have you on the Rubber Game on Wednesday. So make sure you're tuned in to the Fighting's Final. And also some of the stable shows we got, the wraparound with Pat Bernard. We'll return with Pat Bernard, I think, on Friday at 10:30.
It's either him or me, so one of us will be on.
He told me that he's making the Labor Day weekend comeback thing.
Well,
That's what he said.
This is Pat we're talking about here.
Yeah. And then every Sunday morning is the PNM and the AM program, recently hosted by Mike and Al. Again, waiting on Pat's return. So if Pat's there, he's not. If he's there, he is. And then the attacking third, that Steve Fuentes has been going at it solo since Pat took his hiatus away from the internet. So all those great shows. All right, Mike, let's go to the ugly. And I've got to start with our head coach, John Tortorella. Year 3 of Tortorella ended unceremoniously. I mentioned the situation up there in Toronto. You're never going to sit there in front of the national media and tell them that you did not sign up to coach this type of hockey and not expect a backlash from your general manager. Mike, how did we go from the talk of John Tortorella transitioning into an upper position with the Flyers as potentially an advisor to Danny Briere to John Tortorella being put out in the street with 9 games left in the season?
Tortorella just reverted back to his old ways. I thought he had turned a corner. I really did. I was not a big fan of this when we were at EOP. Me and Pat, literally, this is the one time I think the earth stood still because me and Pat actually agreed on something. We did not want John Tortorella. I did not want him. I thought he was a loudmouth. I thought he got lucky when he did reach the finals because of the team that he had. I didn't think it was because of the way he coached. I did not want him here at all. I was so anti-Tortorella. But they brought him in. And you know what? He kind of changed my thinking about him, the way he was handling the team early on, especially the first couple of years. Year 1 and year 2, the way he handled them, I was like, wow, maybe this guy did turn a corner or something, because he's got them playing and but then he turns around and he reverts right back to, I guess it's saying, right? Leopard never changes his spots. Yeah. So, he went right back and I'm sorry, but that's a good way of looking at things that's the best way not to get promoted is to throw your bosses under the bus and go, hey, I don't want to coach this style of hockey after you knew what what the plans were. So to me, man, I seen the right. I looked that night when he said it, I think me and Al were texting each other when we heard about that. And I went, this dude's done. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was gone. And literally the next day, was it the next day or day after that?
No, the next morning he got fired.
Yeah, next morning he was gone. So,
so I look at John Tortorella's fall from the heavens as sort of a layered process, and I'll start with this. Don't forget, John Tortorella was not a Danny B hire. He was a Chuck Fletcher hire. Right at the end there of Chuck Fletcher's tenure. He was brought in here on the heels of the Lynn Vigneault and that debacle. I honestly thought John Tortorella was the right guy for this team. Once they agreed and revealed to be a rebuild, I thought that this could be definitely the right guy because I believe he had that ability to rebuild. But I also think Tortorella thought, for whatever reason, either he was told this or he began to think it for some odd reason. I think Tortorella thought he had more power than he actually had over this franchise and organization at the time. If I look at the Flyers overall, we're going to compare the Tortorella numbers to the Bradshaw. I know it's not really a legitimate sample size of 9 games, but it's to make a point at the end of this. There was a style of John Tortorella. I do think in a lot of ways Tortorella was holding this team back. I think he wanted to teach fundamentals, principles. He said it multiple times. I'm not here just to win hockey games. I'm also here to teach young players how to be pros. And I think that's how he went about that. I think he was more concerned about whether you stayed in your passing lane or if you stayed in your entry lane versus were you creative with trying to put the puck in the net? Were you creative of trying to make that pass? I think he was more concerned about hammering his way of doing things versus, a pro's way of doing things for whatever reason, whether he thought that was what young players wanted or not. Anyway, part 2, I think the trades began to chip away at John Tortorella. I don't think he was on board with letting Sean Walker go. I don't think he was. He understood it, but I don't think he was on board with it. I also don't think he liked the return value on the Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee trade. He said out publicly, I don't like Jacob Pelletier. I'm not going to play him. Send him down to the minors. He's not going to play. Danny B had to intervene and force him to play Jacob Pelletier. And then, of course, Kuzmenko was then traded a few weeks later. He never understood why Kuzmenko was here in the first place. And I think the trade that put him over the edge was letting go Scott Lawton. I don't think he was on board with the Scott Lawton trade at all. And I think at that point, he began to rebel like an insolent child against a stern father by saying, okay, fine. I thought I had more say in all this. I had more. Now I'm going to act out and do what I had to do. So I think it was a layered dissension to the end of John Tortorella.
Yeah, you know what? And I can agree with him, especially. I don't feel that they got enough for Frost and Farabee. I don't think they got enough for that back either.
Yeah.
They got Peltier and Kuzmenko. Kuzmenko, you knew was going to get traded again.
Yep.
Because he didn't want to be here.
And he was on the last year of his deal too.
Yeah, and he didn't want to be here. He already said it. His family was on the West Coast. He didn't want to have to up and move them to the East Coast. Like when I heard him say that, I'm like, this dude's going to be out of here by the trade deadline. Like he'll probably play here for a month or so and be gone. And that's exactly what happened. They ended up sending him to Los Angeles, for a late round pick. And then again, this is John though, like really kind of, I guess you could say, bucking the system because you're telling your boss that you're not going to go and play somebody that they went out and traded for.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Just because you don't like them. I mean, to me, he kind of asked for what he got, So I don't know, man. Flyers have done a lot of things I kind of scratched my head about over the last couple of years. I'm not going to get mad at them for trading Sean Walker. They got a first-round pick for it. Granted, it was a later first-round pick, but it was still a first-round pick. You know what I mean? And did he even resign there, or didn't he move on from Colorado?
No, he resigned, I think, with Ottawa for like 5 years or somebody. He's long-term somewhere. He left after he was traded to Colorado after the end of that season. He hit the open market. He signed a 5-year contract with somebody. He's long-term somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Now he's long-term. Yeah. But, I mean, he was able to do that because, they were able to grant him and try to put him in a cup-winning situation. But, I guess, I feel like the marriage, like you said, Tortorella wasn't Briere's guy. So I guess he kind of looked at it like, look, I don't need to show this dude any loyalty. I didn't hire him. Yep. And he just kind of said, all right, dude, out the door you go.
Now, controversially or vice versa, Brad Shaw takes over the final 9 games of the season, leads the Flyers to a 5-3-1 record. They go 6 for 24 on the power play. 25% effective the Flyers were on the final 9 games on the power play. They scored 35 goals for Brad Shaw, 3.8 a game. So they were averaging close to 4 goals a game for Brad Shaw. For Tortorella, through the first 73 games, they were averaging 2.6 goals a game. So almost doubled their goal input, or by 1. Let's increase it by 1. Moving forward into the Rick Tocchet era, and I don't really want to spend, we can if you like, but this is a review show, not necessarily a preview show, so we can save that for another show. But moving into this season with Rick Tocchet as the new head coach of the Flyers, do you think that this team is going to show more of what we saw with Brad Shaw by letting them kind of start to be a little bit more freer, looser, try to create more stuff on the ice, not be so rigid about how we're going to attack this thing? Because if you didn't do what Tortorella told you to do, you were sitting or you were benched. One or the other was happening. There was no second chances. There was a constant in and out of the lineup with that. But with more of a freer hand or more of a gentler voice, whatever you want to call it, do you think the Flyers will continue to sort of build upon what they started with Brad Shaw?
I think they will because, Tocchet's approach, I mean, if you take a look at Tocchet's second season in Vancouver, what was it? It's like, how long was he out there? I think he was out there, 4 years, right?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years. So, but, last year, or 2 years ago, they had over 100 points. You know what I mean? Like, he got them into the playoffs. This is where me and Pat kind of got into an argument because, he's looking at it as it's the old guard, and I'm going, dude, Tocchet played for half of the league. So, like, he could go anywhere and coach, and he would be returning. Like, if he would have went to Pittsburgh, he would have been returning home there. He played in Pittsburgh for God knows how many years. So, to me, looking at Tocchet coming back here, I feel like he can continue what Shaw had started, and I feel like he can let them beat themselves. But I think he can come down on them. I don't think he's going to come down on them like the way Tortorella did. You know what I mean? I think he can be stern, have a stern voice in the locker room. And the fact that he's bringing some coaches with him that kind of helped him along the way, I think it's going to help Tocchet out, really. And I think the Flyers are going to play more like they did at the end of the season than they did with Tortorella. because it seemed like once he got fired, the chains were off. It was like, oh, we're free. It did. I mean, you just watching the games, man. Just watching the games, you saw they had a pep in their step, man. And I'm talking about the young guys. I mean, you saw better games from guys like Cam York. You saw, the defense played a little better. I don't know if it was just him. You know how they say sometimes the message, when you hear the same barking over and over again, they kind of tune it out. And that's what I think kind of happened with the Flyers.
I agree. As I said, I think the offensive numbers increased when he left. Defensive numbers, they kind of stayed around the same, but they didn't go up. So, I mean, there's something. And as I mentioned, 25% effective the Flyers were on the power play versus 13.6 effective for John Tortorella. So there was something going on the power play. I think it was more chances being taken. I think there was more of a freer approach to attacking the power play. Again, I really believe Tortorella was more concerned with teaching these kids how to be pros, as he said, than winning hockey games. And I truly believe that. So, and take that for what it's worth,
Yeah, I would. I mean, like I said, to me, I just feel like his voice got stale. And, when your team stops listening to the guy that's, in charge, then, it's real easy for upper management to go, yeah, his message isn't getting through anymore. And you could just tell with that. I mean, when they had that blow up with between him and York, look at, man, the Flyers spent a lot of good capital to get a Cam York. You know what I mean? And well, I mean, their draft position where they got him. Yeah. So, I mean, so for me, you're not going to waste that. You know what I mean? And you're not going to get it to where the guy doesn't want to be here anymore. I think if he was still here, Cam York would have hit the free agent market. He would have not resigned here if Tortorella was still that coach.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see that, but thankfully we did not. So that brings us to the final portion of the show, which is the uncertain portion of what we're going to look back on, what was uncertain about this team. And honestly, you could probably put all the bad and the ugly into the uncertain thing, but let's shake it up. And I'm gonna simmer it down to three different levels of the things that I'm kind of still uncertain about what this team is and what direction they're headed. One, the goaltending. I understand the plan. I get it. I understand they invested draft capital and they're going to go that route. I'm uncertain that that's going to work because it hasn't worked for 45 years. All right. Second thing that I'm kind of uncertain with is, as you mentioned at the top of the program, this is more looking at the future, is the drafting. Porter Martone decides to go to college. Jack Nesbitt's going to go up to the junior hockey league. There is no day one contributors coming out of the 25 draft class. Jet Lachenko's got an outside chance of potentially making this team out of camp this year.
I like him. I like him, Matty. I do.
You got the Oliver Bonk, Denver Barkey thing. You got some draft picks that could potentially be making this team out of camp. There's some potential there. It's going to be an interesting training camp in September. But I'm uncertain with the level of input or output that these draft picks are starting to give at this particular moment in time. I once again, I was really adamant this year of hopefully having a day one contributor coming out of the draft. And I thought at 6, there was a couple they could have went, and they went a different way with it, with Porter Martone. So once again, we have no day one contributor coming out of the draft. We have no contributions from last year's draft class if Lachenko doesn't make this roster. That's concerning to me because and again, it's a process and we're building and we're slow, but it's uncertain to where this team's drafting ability is and some of the yield on these players. So I'm uncertain about the future there. And then the last thing that I'm really, really uncertain with is the general direction of this team in 25-26. I mentioned at the top of the program, Mike, Flyers have never as a franchise missed the playoffs for 6 straight years. I'm concerned that might happen this year.
Well, but that's one of my concerns too, but I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. I think some of these younger guys now, it's another year back. It's another year playing with each other. I think the Flyers are going to be. I think they're going to be a little bit better than not. I think they're going to be a lot better than people think that they're going to be. But the one caveat is the goaltending. The defense has to get better in front of the goaltending. If the goaltending's bad, then you got to make sure that your defense is better. I think if the Flyers kind of go with a defensive approach to games, or just really kind of up their, they got to up their game a little bit. Guys like Ristolainen, you got to stay healthy. You got paid all this money to come here. You know what I mean? They offered you a big old contract. So this is, I think that they were close too, Maddie. I mean, 2 years ago, they were really close to getting it. They could almost taste it. And I do think that they can, I actually think they're going to make the playoffs. I really do. I'm not a big fan of what's going on in the Eastern Conference right now. You basically have Florida and then everybody else. I mean, I'm not sold on Toronto. Toronto is the I can't even. They're like the New York Yankees of hockey. They'll get there, and then by round 2 they're out. Boston's taken a step back. Pittsburgh has taken a step back, even though I would still love to sign Chris Letang one day. Even at his older age right now, he would be an upgrade. But, they're my worries. That's my main worry with this Flyers team is the goaltending situation. And like you said, the trajectory of this team and where they are going this year, like as far as what kind of team they're going to be. I think I'm a little opposite than you. Maybe that's the little homer in me coming out wishing that they play better. But,
I didn't.
Well, no, because, 5 years, dude, not making the playoffs. I remember the last time it was a 5-year gap. You know what I mean? It was right before they got Lindros. Before they got Lindros. Those lean years, man, they were lean. I remember, Rod Brindamore was like he was our only all-star in 1992. So, yeah, I remember those Kevin Dineen years. That's what I call them, the Kevin Dineen years.
I fear for a year 6. But, again, the trajectory. Is there enough talent on this team right now? And I think I don't know. We went over some of the numbers of some of the core players offensively. We didn't talk about Owen. Owen, I can't hit the net to save my life. Tippett, but if he can start like cutting that down a little bit and actually put the puck on the net, he's going to score probably 40 goals. So there's some potential there, and there's some steps forward. We saw Forrester take steps. Case took steps. Obviously, we talked about Mitchkov and TK. Sean Couturier actually had a pretty decent offensive season last year compared to the fact that he's 87 years old and 15 goals, 30 assists, and he was a +1. I think he's the only offensive forward we had who finished on the plus side. So there's some talent there. I don't think there's enough. There still isn't enough talent. And then, of course, our big free agent acquisition, Trevor Zegras, if he can stay healthy, has former number 6 overall draft pick. Or number 3 or 4 overall. Actually, he's higher than that. There's some talent, but I don't know if there's enough right there because I think we're asking a lot out of Rick Tocchet to unlock in the keys. And I think there will be an improvement of this team holistically because of the, I don't want to say calming influence of Rick Tocchet, but the non-barbaric influence of John Tortorella. He's not there anymore. As you mentioned, there's a sense of freedom. I can skate around and not get, clothesline because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I think there will be some unlocked talent there, but it comes down to fundamental hockey for me. We got to be able to stop the puck. We got to be able to clear the puck, and we got to be able to put the puck in the net. And I don't know if we have enough there.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think the addition of Dvorak, do you think that will help out the Flyers?
Dvorak.
Would that help? Do you think that helps the Flyers out with a lot? Because they lost a lot of faceoffs last year, and he's a natural center. He can play left wing. You know what I mean?
So 82 games, 12 goals, 21 assists, 33 points, and a -5 was Christian Dvorak last year for the Montreal Canadiens. I think he's an upgrade over Ryan Poehling. That's all he is. I'm not saying he's not going to. I don't think he's going to hurt the team. But how much are you expecting out of number 4 center? That's not what I was hoping for. When I said I wanted center help, I wasn't looking for a Christian Dvorak. I was looking for a number 1 center. That's what I'm looking for. But yes, you got to build it, and I don't think he'll hurt the team. And he was a get. He was available in the market. They took him. It's a good get. I think it'll work out positively. But is the addition of Christian Dvorak going to get this team into the playoffs for the first time in 5 years? I don't know. I don't know if I can say yes to that.
And I have something else too that's been kind of boggling my mind a little bit. Maybe you can help me out with this. The way the Flyers, have been going and rebuilding, a lot of people have taken criticism with it. I just think that, I think what's this, year 3 for Danny and Keith Jones together, right?
Yep.
This is year 3. So I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I just Johnny Hockey's
Johnny Hockey's dead. What are you talking about? Al, what the hell are you talking about, man? To the Goudreau family, I want you to understand that the opinions expressed on this network are not those of the It's a Wrap Sports team management. I just want to let you know that, and I apologize for that to the Goudreau family and everybody else associated with Johnny Goudreau.
Oh, man. That's the comment of the night right there, man.
Yeah.
Holy cow. But, no, one of the guys that you brought up earlier that you said you're not quite sure of, if I remember correctly, didn't Oliver Bonk almost make this team last year?
No. Well, I don't know if you could say almost made it. He was,
he was like one of the. He was like one of the last cuts, right?
Well,
right. Wasn't he like?
Yeah. He was.
I could have sworn. I could have sworn. Yeah. So I mean, maybe he does take a step and move up. And I've been hearing a lot of rave reviews about Jet Lachenko. Just how he's looked in like the little mini camps that they had recently, that they were talking about, and they said he was in pretty decent shape. So, they said he added about 10, 15 pounds of muscle. He added to his frame. So, so if he did, hey, look, he's trying to do what he can to make this team too, because he's kind of like no man's land, right?
Well, I mean, he'll go back to juniors for another year. His contract hasn't really started yet, so they have some time on him. But Mike, I mean, as a 13th overall pick in that draft, again, anything after 5 or 6, you're not going to get day one. That's just the way hockey is. Everyone's a project after you get past the first 5 players. Jetlachenko at 13 was a project. I honestly thought he was taken too high. I thought he was a second-round talent, honestly. But the Flyers went ahead and got him at 13. I don't know what he projects out to be. Maybe I don't think he's a 2 or 1. I think he's a 3 or 4. And honestly, and I don't see that. That's not what I'm looking for right now. I'm looking for a slam dunk number 1 centerman who the Flyers have yet to acquire. They don't have him yet. And I know it's a rebuild. I get all that, but you got to keep butts in the Xfinity Live, whatever the hell they're calling that building now. You got to keep butts in the seats. And the honeymoon with Danny B and Keith Jones might get a little tense if they don't make the playoffs this year. If they go 6 years without making the playoffs, it might get a little close for them. And I don't see enough right now in August that has me picking the Flyers to make the playoffs. I just see too many uncertainties. I see too many of the same weaknesses we had from a year ago. But again, we are at the beginning of this. Players could step up, players could show up, all that kind of thing. That could happen, yes. But I'm not feeling confident heading into the season in August that this team is ready to take the next step.
Yeah, like I said, I'm looking at their free agent signings, and basically the only guy that got a 2-year deal was the goaltender, Vladar. He's the only one. Like Dvorak's on a 1-year deal, Julesen's on a 1-year deal, Gilbert's on a 1-year deal.
Juleson and Gilbert are going to be up and down through Lehigh Valley all season. They're emergency bodies. That's all they are. They're going to be filling in that role. They're fringers. They're tweener guys. They're going to go up and down. When someone gets hurt, they're going to come up to the Flyers. When they get better, they're going to go back down to Lehigh. That's what those.
What about this Lane Peterson? I don't know much about.
Same thing about him. He's another tweener.
Up and down. Okay.
He's going to be up and down. The only one that's going to stay is Dvorak. He's going to be the 4th line centerman.
Okay.
And that's because if Nick DeLorean doesn't beat him out of a job. Yeah. But again, I do have some concerns that we were no one sold me a bill of goods. I understood. And then we're going to talk about the same things next year. Oh, about the free agency money. More money's falling off the books next year, which it is. I get it. I get what the long-term project is, but 5 years without the playoffs. I think the fans need something. They need a bone thrown to them. We need a competitive hockey season that gets us into the playoffs. I'm not saying win a Stanley Cup, but we got to qualify.
I think they will. I mean, could they make it as like a 7th or 8th seed? I think they could. It's just because of the way I'm looking at the East, Maddie. Like you have Florida, Carolina, and if you want to throw Toronto in there, you can throw Toronto in there. But really, after that, like, who do you really have? Take a look at it. I mean, Washington's kind of up and down. The Devils are kind of like, you don't know what the Devils are. The Devils are ascending, then they're not. The Rangers are the same way. You don't know if they're coming and going. The Islanders are the Islanders. 1 minute they're good, the next minute they're not. So, and that's just in our division. If you look over in the other division, Boston's not what they used to be. They're trading everybody away. Trying to think here. Detroit, I think Detroit could possibly, be on the upkeep a little bit. Columbus, again, you're sitting there looking, twiddling your thumbs. You don't know what they're going to be. So, I mean, you're looking at all these teams around the Eastern Conference. The Flyers could definitely sneak in. As, like I said, I would say if the ceiling for me is probably, 6th or 7th seed. And, the low is probably going to be them missing for year 6. But I think they're going to come somewhere in the middle. I think, 7th or 8th seed, they'll get their teeth kicked in the first round, but they'll have playoff hockey back at, whatever the name of the center is now.
Is it Xfinity Live or?
It's Xfinity Mobile Arena.
Oh, Lord. Why has it got to be so complicated? So is it the XM Arena? Is that what we're calling it, XM?
Yeah, Xfinity Mobile. Yep. Yep. XM. XMA.
XMA. All right. All right, Mike. Well, listen, it was fun. We finally put the bow around the 24-25 Flyers, and this is essentially what the Clear the Ice crew will look like as we will get this thing revved back up October 9th. It'll be the sorry, wrong person, my bad, Connor McDavid. I'm driving and allowed my 10-year-old to send my message. Okay, Al. Good save, Al. Way to throw the 10-year-old under the bus. Again, to the Goudreau family, I apologize for any comments that were made on this program that might have insulted you by Al's 10-year-old son. Now, Connor McDavid's an interesting name. Of course, we're joking around. I totally believe that. But Connor McDavid is an interesting name. He is technically a UFA at the end of the year. I don't know, Mike. I don't think he sees it. I think the Edmonton Oilers come in here probably in the next month or so and lock him down for the rest of his life.
Well, listen, if they don't, I'll take either him or Draisaitl in a Flyers uniform.
Yeah, so
I actually like Draisaitl a little more. I don't know why. Draisaitl's a real physical dude, man. So
I don't know. Connor McDavid, that's a whole other level right there. That's the number one that we all covered.
Yeah. He's this generation Sidney Crosby, man.
He is the best hockey player in the world.
Yeah, he is. I'm a big fan of Draisaitl. I love his game, man. So. I mean, if you can get McDavid. I mean, hey, listen, the Flyers did make a push to get Steven Stamkos at one time, if you remember.
They did. But anyway, we are going to be back for season 4 of the Clear the Ice program. October 9th, as Mike said, Flyers will open up in Florida as the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers will raise the banner and get the rings. So, for all you Dallas Cowboy fans that are having some problems with dealing with the Eagles thing, well, we're going to get it with the Panthers. So I don't know if that makes you feel better, but we're going to start it October 9th against the Florida Panthers and potentially start the season off with 3 straight losses. But whatever, we'll get to where we got to be. I don't know. Did Pat say he was going to do this year? Did he say?
I have no idea. Pat's all over the place. I think he wants to do this. I think he's talking about doing a Sixers post-game too.
Well, let's get the internet working first, Pat.
Yeah.
So it'll be me and Mike for now, but I'm sure we'll be adding people as we move through. But be on the lookout for the next Clear the Ice, which will be the season preview show. And I promise it will happen before October 9th. We'll preview the season before we start the season. I promise you that. But as Mike said, it's always rough with the because I don't want to do a review show when you don't make the playoffs and you're out in early April. I'm not going to do a review show as the playoffs are happening. I'm going to wait till after the Stanley Cup Finals are over, which are in June. At that point, my schedule got too hard. I couldn't really fit in the time. And here we are in August. So don't blame me. Blame the Flyers. If they would have gotten through and made the playoffs, maybe I could have done something. But
listen, man, us here, we all wear many hats and do many shows. So
yes. And speaking of many shows, don't forget tonight at 10 o'clock, I'll be back in about an hour and a half, and we'll put the bow on the Matty B trifecta here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network for the final word. Then all the other great programming. The props, locks, and parlay show. I didn't mention that. We have a graphic being made for that currently with Al's 10-year-old son. He's going to get that up for us soon. And that'll be debut not this Wednesday, but the 3rd at 8 p.m. Right, Mike?
7 p.m. Props, locks, and parlays, guys. We take your 3 best college picks, your 3 best pro picks, and we talk about player props for the NFL. I'm only doing this during football season. So, we go in and we discuss, and you know what? The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to pick 2 games that I like. I'm going to let you guys pick the last game that I pick and what you think it is, and we're going to put a buck on it every week and just see where it goes. All right?
For entertainment purposes only.
Yes, for entertainment purposes only. It's for entertainment purposes only. So
absolutely. Remember, we got to put that in there to keep the tax man off our back. And before I let you go, Mike, where can the people find you out there?
You can find me on Clear the Ice. You can find me on the Fight and Spinal, which I will be hosting tomorrow, right after the Phillies game. Great pitching matchup tomorrow in Flushing. Kodai Senga against Christopher Sanchez. That should be a really good one. Every Sunday morning, you can find me with Pat and Al. It's been Al the last couple weeks, but for P&M in the AM. And, of course, I got the 2 new shows coming, the Happy Valley Huddle, which is the Penn State post-game show, and, of course, Props, Locks, and Parlays, which will be debuting on the the night before the Eagles home opener, which is the 3rd, at 7 o'clock right here. So make sure you guys check that out.
And just a reminder, in the Happy Valley Huddle, the Penn State Nittany Lions start the season off against Nevada, Florida International University, and the Division III Villanova Wildcats. So
hey, Villanova played them tough last year for about a quarter and a half. So no, hey, look, listen, I'm going to take all the little. We got to take them as they play them.
Yeah,
and,
you got to listen. What's going to happen if they lose the Villanova? I mean, it's going to be the house is going to be on fire.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine Villanova goes in there and beats the number 2 team in the nation? Hey, guess what? If they lose that game, you think you heard me go off about James Franklin on P&M and the AM? Let them lose to Villanova at home. My brother will be happy. He's a Nova alum. But other than that, I'd be like, it was just as bad as them losing to Temple a couple years ago.
Yeah, well, that was a great game.
It was. I was there.
Yeah. But, all right, everybody. Be on the lookout. Of course, you can find me all over. It's a wrap. I am the man. So for Mike Lauro and the rest of the Clear the Ice crew, thank you for tuning in to the 2024-2025 Flyers season review show. We'll talk to you Clear the Ice wise here in a couple months. And then obviously you're going to see us all over the place. I'll see you in here in about an hour and a half. So you guys have a good night. What do they say? What did Gene Hart says? Good night and good hockey, everybody.